Welcome back. It's Tim and Julie Harrison. This is your favorite daily real estate coaching and training podcast. We have got a fun repeat topic. We've done this before, and Julie just updated it. And she's going to be sprinkling in a lot of real life stories from her top level elite coaching clients to share with you. And the topic is agents. Are you a serial text offender? No. Not what you think we said. I said text, as in
Text.
texting.
T-E-X-T.
That's right. Okay. So are you a serial text offender? And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving you some ideas, some rules of the road, best behaviors and practices when it comes to texting. And Julie, how many points do you have? How many
There's
rules?
11. We may not get through all of them. And we also may have little bonus half points, as we often are known for doing. We'll just see how it goes. And I have to say that all of these points or rules to stop being a text offender are based on real world feedback from coaching clients that have experienced this stuff. Hopefully none of them have actually been a text offender themselves, but you never know. So this is all IRL stuff.
So for example, you are fresh off 2 or 3 top level coaching clients, elite coaching clients.
Yeah.
And those are our top, drawer coaching clients. A lot of them have been with us for years. These are the ones that are making, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year.
Most of them. Yeah.
Right. And so they're sharing with you, and I told you to share this on the podcast because you usually don't, want to say what you said to me prior to the show. Julie off camera is slightly different than Julie on camera, whereas I'm the same both ways because Julie doesn't want to offend anybody. But without worrying about offending people, share with the listeners and the viewers on YouTube what you are hearing from your coaching clients as far as what they're experiencing with the level of ignoramus in the industry.
Yes. My goodness. Well, many different stories, but they kind of fall into different categories. Some of them are related to our topic today, text, but it's just generally bad behavior. I have a client in LA who was trying to put together an over $4 million transaction. Okay. And the other agent was like, now and then getting back, sometimes being on text. And it's one of these cases where when they get back with you, everything is super duper urgent and you better respond like this. And then you give them a response with a question and it's like a day and a half later, what happened to this person? And she had to track them down through their broker, stuff like that, where it's just kind of like, I would say inconsistent behavior, disappearing, random ghosting behavior, sometimes overly aggressive, and then like maybe passive aggressive and then letting up, lack of communication. Some of my coaching clients that have been doing some previewing, trying to go up market, for example, and going to other agents' open houses, the call will sometimes start out, you're not going to believe what I ran into with this other agent, that type of thing. And I could go on, but I, don't particularly want to throw anybody under the bus, but I would say generally kind of bad agent behavior. And you wonder why there's so many movies that highlight agents as being like these fringe people.
What agents don't appreciate a lot of times, and if they do, if they've been in the business for more than a blink, but I'd say anybody that's, transactional will understand and appreciate what I'm about to say. You will treat, say, for example, you do a co-op and someone's very unprofessional and they're a text offender. We're going to give these hopefully fun points here in a second. And let's say the person's just really a nightmare to deal with. If you're in a situation, let's say you're a listing agent and you've had this bad experience with this previous agent, and you have another listing and you have multiple offers, and one of the offers is from this agent you had this bad experience with, that agent's probably at a disadvantage no matter how strong their offer is, because the listing agent doesn't trust that the buyer agent necessarily is going to be as professional as, say, maybe one of the other agents who they had the exact opposite experience with. So in your marketplace right now, there are agents that you would love to co-op with because they're really easy to work with. They're very professional. They're very timely with their responses. They're very, all the things that you want in a smooth transaction.
They have a good reputation transactionally, not just socially, but kind of who you're dealing with. When we sold real estate, we would have agents where like, you knew that they were going to have a really good, well put together lender letter. You knew that they weren't going to ask for a bunch of crazy stuff in the offer. You knew that they'd get back with you. You knew that they would stick to the terms of the contract instead of constantly trying to reopen the contract, right?
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. And they're not going to try any tricky crap during the inspection. They walk in, they see the house needs new carpet, and then the inspection, they say the house, they ask for new carpet in the inspection. You already made the offer based on the condition of the property. There's this in the property disclosure form, what you saw on the day of the showing and when you wrote
no crazy stuff.
Right. And what they're trying to do is they're just being unprofessional. And really the reason that agents act like that, the lack of professionalism, comes from not doing enough transactions and being so desperate to keep one deal together. everyone can smell it on you. When you have commission breath, your buyers can, the co-ops, everyone. And that is, even if you're a brand new agent, you've never done a transaction before, go above and beyond, especially when you're working with a really good listing agent and you're on the buyer side. Go above and beyond every single time to really placate that listing agent and make them so that they want to do business with you, because they will do business with you. And I can give you an example, many, many examples from coaching clients, from Julie and I's own real estate careers. We always lean to talking more about our real estate careers sometimes because Julie and I are not comfortable talking about coaching clients without having specific permission from them to tell stories, because I don't know, it just feels a little bit like we're talking at a church. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Julie and I had in New Albany, we had an offer that came in on a place on Ely Court. You remember this one, Julie? And it was over $1 million. It was over $1 million. It was our third or fourth year in the business. It was, we are new in this particular market. Fantastic listing. And we had 3 or 4 offers on this property. And one of the offers came from a guy who was Mark, who was always really nice, always really respectful, always really helpful. Just a real, if we walked into a restaurant or whatever, and we saw him, we were always going to go up and say hi to him. And the other agents were sneery, defensive, difficult to work with, didn't want us in the market, just, overall.
Less than professional, we'll say.
Less than professional. And guess whose offer we accepted? Mark's. The offers were similar enough in terms of terms and condition, but that's what we did. We accepted the offer from the agent that we wanted to work with. It was obviously ultimately up to the seller whose offer they wanted to take. And we did a net sheet on each so they can make an analytical, financial based decision. But yeah, of course, we're going to say, given all the things that are equal, we would definitely suggest that you choose the offer from the person that's not the jerk. Okay. So the objective from today's podcast is you to remember everything we just said. And if you really, truly want a long real estate career, or even if maybe you're realizing in the past you haven't behaved the way you should have with your co-ops, this is an opportunity for you to set the stage for a long real estate career where you do have a stellar reputation in the industry, but also if you haven't done so far, for you to hit hard reset. So Julie, let's jump right into our 11 rules to keep your messages from getting ghosted. Oh, by the way, you're going to want our notes from today's podcast. Definitely go to harrisrealestatedaily.com and download these notes. These are very succinct notes. You could use this if you're coaching and training any agents on your team or your brokerage or whatever. And these notes are something that we put a lot of time into, but we're going to give them to you as our way of saying thank you for being a subscriber to harrisrealestatedaily.com. Just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com, subscribe to the newsletter, go to your normal email, double opt-in saying you want the newsletter, and you're off to the races. All right, Julie, let's get into this. Let's just go right to rule number 1.
Yes, keep it professional, not personal. Save the emojis and the slang for your personal chats. In business, we use proper language, at least we should be, and leave the LOLs for after hours. Use real words to do real business. So if this is what your text sounds like, you're breaking rule number 1. Ready? OMG, I was ROFL when my BFF told me TBH about her date last night. It was TMI, but LOL, I couldn't stop laughing. You gotta love things IRL, for example. You might talk to your best friend like that, but you are not going to be doing this in a business setting, right? So don't be that agent. You've got to keep it clear and professional. Don't shorten words. Don't assume that they know what your abbreviations are, stuff like that.
Let me frame that. So you have to assume that anything that you ever write from about probably 10 years ago forward is going to you're somehow going to be held responsible for it. Or you're going to have to, like, for example, if you're doing a bunch of unprofessional emojis and all these other things and texting, and all of a sudden that becomes part of a legal dispute over some offer, you look like a fool. So you got to always assume that everything that you write, and make sure whatever you're writing can't possibly be taken out of context. Well, an easy button to avoid all this is obviously going to just be pick up the phone and reinforce what you're texting, or just, some people I know avoid texting altogether because they don't want to be misinterpreted. And that works too. And I'll tell you another advanced version of this is do videos, text videos, little short videos, WhatsApp, even SMS, just send them a quick video. That way, nobody's going to misinterpret what you're saying. And another added advantage is that you can easily inject emotion in what you're trying to say, urgency into what you're trying to say. And no one's going to misinterpret what you're trying to say because it's going to be you saying it versus a bunch of texts with a whole bunch of, silly emojis. All right, Julie, let's go to rule number 2, grammar police on duty.
Exactly. Avoid committing grammatical crimes. Now, the problem is you don't always know if you're doing it. Remember that autocorrect is not your friend, but proofreading is. Always check your message before you hit send. For example, let's eat grandpa is different than let's eat, comma, grandpa. Okay. There, and there, as in THERE, EIR, or EY apostrophe RE, are not interchangeable. Use punctuation wisely. Your professionalism depends on it. You can be judged for bad grammar. You can be judged for autocorrect and you not proofreading it, and something's completely not what you intended, and then you've got to go back and fix it.
There's
All
no
of those are really grammatical errors.
And
Go ahead.
Grammarly, for example, which works with SMS, there's really no excuses not to have perfect grammar anymore because AI can fix all of it for you. There's free AI widgets now that work with everything you're ever going to type. That just don't leave yourself susceptible to,
You should still proofread it though, because sometimes the autocorrect thinks that it was a different intention than what you were saying.
For sure. But
So,
that happens all the time. All right. Rule number 3, identify yourself. What do you mean by that, Julie?
well, don't assume that they know who you are. Start your text with your first and last name, especially with new prospects or new contacts. Unless you're texting a psychic, they don't know that it's you without help, especially in the beginning of your text chain, right? So don't be mistaken for Bob the dog walker if you're Bob the realtor, Larry the lazy lender if you're Larry the not lazy lender, right? Or somebody else with a similar number. We've seen lots of examples of that. There was one recently, reported politically that it was an unintended person that got the text, right? So always identify yourself to avoid that problem, especially when starting and ending texts. Okay.
And who hasn't sent a text to the wrong person and have to unreel that? I just did that this morning. I was ending up having this text conversation
offender
with the wrong person. All right, now I want to show you guys. This is also true. Go to I'm on an iPhone, but if you're on YouTube, you can just look at your screen. That is, if you send me a text, I'm going to be able to send you back. It's my card basically, and that will automatically loads up all my contact information into your, and it's saved into your phone. So what you do to set this up, I'm going to walk back through it, is go on your phone, go to you have to hit your phone here. I'll show you guys how to do it. All right, go to there. Go to contacts, which is right in the middle. Okay, and you see it says my card at the top. You can't really see it's kind of blurry.
I can see it. Yep.
Hit my card right here. Oh, I hit something on accident. No, contacts, lists. Well, click my card at the top, like I was just saying. And then you can go and set up your card and set up with your picture and all your contact information. So what's going to happen is if someone texts you and it's just their phone number and you don't know who they are, when you text them back, it's going to ask you if you want them to receive your card. And you say yes. And then what happens, it's going to send your card automatically to them. And all they've got to do is click one button and all of a sudden your picture and all your contact information is stored in their phone. So that's a really great way to do it and very clever. And you can control how you want to be communicated with that way. But that's something for everyone should definitely do. There's something very similar that you can do on Android as well. So, there's something very basic. I'm going to also say this. Younger people will listen to what we're saying, especially ones that have not been in any sort of formal business for any sort of time. And they're going to say that Julie and I are telling you guys to do things that younger people don't do. And maybe Julie said the word emoji or something like that. And you guys are thinking, well, that's all we communicate with. But I'm here to tell you, a vast majority of the people who are the most viable buyers and sellers of real estate are not going to be millennials. They're going to be older people, Julie and I's age and older, really. Or older baby boomers.
It was the highest percentage of closings in the past quarter, by the way.
Well, the highest percentage of closings in the last quarter were people in their 60s, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. And they're not going to, if you send something that's age inappropriate to somebody who's older, you're instantly going to disqualify yourself from them ever taking you seriously.
They might not text at all.
Right. Exactly. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. So it's an unfair advantage if you're a younger person and all the other people in your age group are sending emojis and, like you guys, frankly, I do it too. I send my daughter emojis and stuff all the time just to make her laugh. So I get it. But if you're if you are someone who's not doing that when communicating with your real estate clients, and you're taking our points and our rules seriously, and you're being more professional in how you present yourself, that in a very small way gives you an unfair advantage in the marketplace. Again, just because you're taking it more seriously, and people are going to respect the fact that you are not trying to over personalize your, even text communication with them. All right, Julie, let's go on to rule number 4.
Rule number 4 is timing is everything. Just because you wake up at 2 a.m. with real estate night sweats doesn't mean that your client, the listing agent, or the appraiser, or anybody else wants to hear your message at 2 o'clock in the morning. So respect business hours and be mindful of time zones. Maybe you've got a relocating executive client who lives in Hawaii. You're on the East Coast. 9 a.m. in New York is not the same as 9 a.m. in Hawaii. So be sensitive to what time you're waking up and wanting to just clear your mind using text. Okay, so I think I would add to that, you probably shouldn't text anything past about 9 p.m. People don't always process things as well later in the day.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So one of the things all of you should be doing on your voicemails, and we teach you all this in Premier Coaching. Oh, by the way, you have requested and we are complying. If you want to attend a mastermind, we are going to continue to do them. Just go to harrismastermind.com or click the link below and join the mastermind. We're going to do 3 this week. And what we're focusing on is overcoming the 3 biggest challenges agents are having now: lead generation, branding, all the most important things. So please do register for the upcoming Harris Mastermind. Just go to harrismastermind.com or click the link below. We've essentially gotten it down to about 2 hours with questions and answers. And we're the masterminds have evolved into something quite interesting, because we're using some content from previous masterminds and then new mastermind content. So it's morphing into, really, because of all the feedback we've gotten and all the questions we've gotten, it's really becoming something quite magnificent, I think. Something that we're enjoying and looking forward to. We're learning a lot from the questions you guys you're asking. We're learning more about what we should be focusing in on, not just in Premier Coaching, but also on our podcast. This is really a community bonding thing more than anything. Just go to harrismastermind.com and we'll help you overcome the 3 biggest challenges agents are having now with regards to their businesses. All right. Now, I forgot the last thing I was going to say. So Julie, why don't you just go on to point number 5, which is get straight to the point.
No worries. All good. So rule number 5.
I just remembered.
Okay, back to you.
This is a good point. Sorry. All right. So in your voicemail, you need, and this isn't the exact script, but this is the gist of it. Hey, this is Tim Harris with eXp Realty. If you're calling in the evening hours or on the weekends, please leave a number where I can reach you during normal business hours. If you're calling during normal business hours, please leave your name and number, and I'll call you back within 10 minutes, and make sure you do. That's not the exact script. The exact script's a lot smoother than that. The reason that this ties into Julie's previous point about not texting after hours is because you're now setting the expectation that you're working at 9 p.m. You're now setting the expectation that you're working at 6 a.m. or 4 a.m. or whenever you sent the text back. Mm-hmm. You have to keep it professional. You have to tell the world how you want to be treated and what your boundaries are as far as when you're going to communicate with them. And the second you break that boundary, when seconds as somebody texts you at 9 p.m. and you text them right back, you think you're giving them great service because real estate is your life. What you're really doing is telling them that you are going to reward their time abusing the abuse of your time. They're not respecting your boundaries, and it's just going to get worse from there. Anybody who's been in the business for any amount of time knows exactly what I'm talking about. So just make it very clear from the onset. Leave it on your voicemail. You can leave an autoresponder on your text, the whole thing. Set boundaries. If you want to get your time back and get in control of your business, that's a great way to do it. And one of the first things that you should be doing when you want to expand your business is doing more transactions. If you're feeling burned out, is definitely go back and setting up those boundaries. You were about to say something, Jules?
Well, what I was saying is, if you want to be treated with normal business hours, then you are setting the precedent with that. And one of the things that you can do to control that is when you're negotiating, don't leave something open until midnight. What do you think you're going to be doing at 9 p.m.? You're going to be texting away, right? Don't leave it open until 10 p.m. You're signing yourself up to work when you shouldn't be working, right? You also are signing yourself up to potentially be interrupting the other agent, the other client, your client, during dinner time, during homework hell, during their 3rd glass of wine. You don't know what you're dealing with after business hours. So don't sign yourself up for that. I think most people have gotten some crazy texts back from either friends or hopefully not clients, and you wish you wouldn't have been texting at that hour. So let's go to point number 5, which was getting straight to the point. Don't beat around the bush. Keep your text clear, concise, and direct. It's not a mystery novel. Over long messages, we've all had these long text messages, paragraph after paragraph. They either get ignored, they get deleted, or they get put on the back burner. I don't have time to read through all this. I'll go back to it. And then you forget about it because it gets pushed back in your text. So don't make it a heavy lift for your reader. Texts are supposed to be short, concise, and accurate. Make sense?
Yeah, it does. And the nice thing about, again, AI, though I haven't found a system that I frankly trust yet, but most of the texting you're going to receive in real estate is a transactional type text asking for information about this listing, that listing, how to set up a showing, all those types of things, home inspectors, whatever. And so what's going to happen is AI is it is already studying your routine texts, and it's going to differentiate between personal and business. And it's going to be able to do most of the responding to most of the transactional type stuff, I'm guessing within 60 to 90 days. Just be clear, what we're going to experience the rest of this year as far as what AI is going to do to our lives and our businesses is going to be extraordinary. And I mean extraordinarily good. There's going to be more efficiencies that are going to be made available to to real estate practitioners, small business owners, things that we would never have been able to employ or afford, that would have required armies of coders and armies of humans. We're going to have essentially be able to focus all of our best energies every day on the things that are going to put us in the position to help the most people make the most money. And it's going to move you out of the kitchen, right? You're no longer going to have to be doing the work and cleaning the dishes and cutting the carrots. The AI is going to do it for you. You're now going to be out there mingling like the best restaurant owners are with all the clientele. And that's where you're going to make the most money. And that's the one thing that we hope you're wrapping your mind around, that you need to become the best communicator. That's what today's podcast is all about. And virtually all of our real estate coaching and training always goes back to the reality that the more the technology starts to take hold, the weak agents are going to be the ones that will be not necessarily replaced, but they're definitely not going to be as valuable. The agents that know how to communicate, the agents that are wanting to have real conversations over the phone or in person with people are the ones that are going to dominate. All the other agents that are trying to hide behind CRMs and trying to hide behind digital communication, they're the ones that are going to lose because they're the ones that are going to have made themselves irrelevant because of AI. So hopefully you guys are getting your minds around this. You're going to start seeing what we have been predicting since AI really came on the scene about 24 months playing out. Probably, I would say, from when I've been people are coming to us and asking us to pitch their product to all of you as our listeners. And I asked for a demo of the product, and I've yet to find a product that I like enough to feel comfortable to present to all you guys. But I have to say, just since the beginning of this year, the quality of these apps is extraordinarily different in just the last 5 or 6 months. I can't believe it, how fast it's evolving. And I was going to tell you this later, Julie, because I want to research it more. There is absolutely going to be this year AI that's going to be able to watch all of our previous videos, listen to all of our previous podcasts, read all of your outlines, and start creating podcasts that are going to be, I would say, 90 to 95% authentic, and people won't be able to differentiate. And I'll tell you about an interesting experience. There was a podcast, it's a general business podcast. It's probably one of the top 25 in the world, and they did a test. So they launched a new podcast, the same presenter as the normal podcast that he does live like you and I do. And then he launched an AI podcast where the AI was studying what the best content was to present on a podcast, going out and researching it, writing its own outlines, doing the whole thing. And then it was actually doing the video and the audio. And where the problem was 6 months ago was the audio was too slow paced and the inflections weren't the same. And you could tell.
Didn't sound authentic.
It just, something intuitively was off. But he said, and this is what the big revelation is, the downloads and not the downloads, the watch time on YouTube and the listen time on iTunes is the same as his live podcast. You get it? So
Very
people aren't able
to test that ourselves.
Yes, I know. We're both looking forward to that, aren't we? Expect Tim and Julie to have a new podcast every hour, starting in hopefully about 90 days. Yes, but these podcasts have taken us thousands of hours to do. And to be able to have AI start, now you guys are saying, well, Tim and Julie will be without a job doing podcasts. No, it's not true. What we'll be able to do is do more podcasts and it'll drive more folks to coaching, which will help us to be in a position to help more agents at an even higher level than we're able to do on this podcast through coaching our coaching staff to be better coaches and doing elite clients ourselves. That's where our heart and our passion is being in direct contact with you guys, because that's where we can have the most impact. So you have the same thing to look forward to. Just open your mind and don't be fearful. And if you come across anybody that's making you feel fearful of AI, you just need to tune them out, because that's the person that's going to essentially cause you to start, not being optimistic and then not looking for the opportunities and how to leverage it. That's all coming to a computer screen and a keyboard near you very soon. All right, Julie, rule number 6, privacy, please.
Yes, never discuss confidential or sensitive details via text. Negotiations, legal points, client data should not be shared using SMS. Texting is not the place for back and forth for your offers. Also, legal note, different states have different laws about what constitutes a binding agreement using digital messaging. It is not all the same. There have been lawsuits about this, and by and large, the agents have lost. Just because you have E&O insurance does not mean that you want to use it.
But let's explain what you just said. That was generalization, right? So agents have been essentially said, I was just texting. It wasn't part of a binding contract.
Yep.
The lawsuits have ferreted out that it was part of a binding contract because you were representing the seller or the buyer.
And it was in writing, technically, is what they would say.
Exactly. And it was the terms of that what were hashed out digitally were but then forced to be part of the contract legally. And the agents in every situation that tried to, say it wasn't part of the deal lost. And that's essentially all the validation you need to understand. Going back to the first point, make sure you're always communicating. If you can, communicate with video, and make sure you're very, very conscientious of the fact and thinking about everything that you say and everything you write might be part of some sort of, legal issue in the future. So be very sensitive to that. I'm going to also say this. If some of you are prone and have gotten conditioned to talking online in unprofessional ways, and I am very scared for you, because if you've used your name, what's going to happen is AI, when someone does a search on you, is going to find the weird, bizarro posts and opinions you had that you may have, voiced on some chat room 10 years ago that you were maybe a little drunk or something like that. And I have seen already, and I've had coaching clients ask me about AI. They're researching themselves, and all the SEO that you've been doing on, and a lot of you have done a great job, on Google or whatever, doing, you're building your business profiles, you're, working on your reviews, you're working on all these other things. It does not appear that AI is going to universally treat all of that hard-earned search placement the same going forward. AI is using a different set of rules. You guys can call them algorithms, but they're not algorithms, to go about assessing how it's going to position you in the eyes of who's the number one agent at New Albany Country Club. I want to list my house. Who's got the best track record for, list to sell price ratio, things like that. That's what people search for, those types of more drill down things. And if you're having posted on, some message board about some bizarre thing that somebody finds objectionable, you're going to be putting yourself in harm's way. So I'll strongly suggest that unless you're going to be posting online something positive, and avoid politics, avoid anything that might trigger somebody. Just be thinking into the future. This is going to be part of my legacy. Whatever I'm typing now, whatever I'm saving into someone else's website, those words that I put in have now become part of their platform, and they're not going to remove them, probably ever. So that's going to be part of my permanent record. So just keeping all these things in mind, because a lot of you guys are using WhatsApp. Some of you use Signal app. We're talking about SMS and things like that. Assume that everything you ever type anywhere is going, like, even if you're on Signal and it deletes the app after, or deletes the text after a certain amount of time, someone can just screenshot whatever you just wrote and they can post it someplace else and save it. So please be thinking like that, because where all this ends is you're building a reputation one keystroke at a time, and make sure you're taking into consideration how you want to be interpreted going into the future. All right. So rule number 7, this is the most important one, I think, of all of Julie's rules, is furiously fast lead follow-up. What do you mean by that, Julie?
Well, this may seem to negate our previous rule of not getting immediately back with somebody if they text you at 8 o'clock at night. We're talking about during normal business hours, when you've had a conversation that, hey, most of our communication is going to be during normal business hours unless there's something urgent or an emergency. So setting that aside, If it's noon and you've just submitted an offer and you've just heard the counter offer back, or they just got an acceptance, don't sit on that information. Don't you think your client is going to want some urgent follow-up? So furiously fast lead follow-up in general in your business, whether that's returning a phone call or returning a text or returning an email, that will serve you well. A lot of people, I mean, we used to go on listing presentations all the time that said, you're here because you answered the phone. You're here because you called us right back. I've had many coaching clients that have said that they were at the table because their prospect had left 3 messages for 3 different agents and they were the only one that called back, or the one that called back the first or the most professionally. So timing does matter in many aspects of real estate, but certainly texting on certain things, adjust accordingly. You might, maybe a response to the text is a phone call because it's something personal or financial. So, the point is to not sit on information and leave your clients wondering what the heck's going on.
Well, let's drill down on that too. So when you're doing furiously fast lead follow-up and someone sends you a digital text or WhatsApp or whatever, pick up the phone and call them. Pick up the phone.
It's always going to be better.
It's always going to be better. Yes, it's going to take more time. Yes, it's going to take more energy, but it's also going to leave a better impression and no one's going to misinterpret what you're saying. Listen to what Julie said a second ago with regards to the place or the time of day that you're communicating with people. Because who listening right now, the thousands of you that are listening and watching, how many of you actually are the best versions of yourself at night? Nobody is. So if you're getting, and if you have a customer who's had a cranky day, they get home and, somebody left and they had 3 showings and the house isn't, whatever. And they're going to fire off a text to you. And that text maybe is a little nasty. And you're going to misinterpret it, and then you're going to send a message back, and then you're going to ruin your evening and spend the next 3 hours worrying, whatever. If someone sends you a message and it sounds like it's urgent, even though they know not to communicate with you afterwards, you have already told them that you're not necessarily going to return that text. But if you do feel compelled, because it's maybe something that it's perceived as being urgent, say, I'm sorry that happened. I'll look into this and I'll call you back first thing in the morning. You got to get control of your time. Otherwise you will run into, mild sociopaths. They'll be more than happy to ruin your life.
And it will escalate, guaranteed. It will escalate. If that's how it started, you are not going to finish that well in that conversation that evening.
Nope.
They may even forget about it by morning anyway.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's so true. Right. I mean, if you feel like getting into somebody or they're trying to get into it with you, how many of you feel that adversarial in the morning as you did at night? Nobody does. So moral of the story is, and this is especially true as you get older too, by the way, just for the record. All right. Next point, Julie, is rule number 8. Subject lines are the spice of text or any kind of digital communication.
Add context to your messages. Think about your subject line as the appetizer to your message. Actually talk about what it is about. Be relevant, be helpful. Here's an example. Subject, quick update on your home inspection, please read. Or subject, got a counter offer back, it's in your email. Call you in 30 minutes. Say what it's about. Sometimes agents feel like they've got to have a paragraph before to soften it up, and then they're going to eventually get to it. Just say what it's about. I listened to a podcast that Jeb Blunt did where the whole point of this tiny little podcast was stop acting like you're interrupting and bothering somebody. Just get to the point. I'm calling because I need you to call me back because. That's shorter, it's to the point, and it's very efficient in a professional manner. So that's what that's about.
Rule number 9, receipt required.
Yes. Let people know that you received their message. Maybe you're on the way to a listing appointment and you're not going to text them right back the answer. Excuse me. You might just say, got your message. Thank you. I'll circle back to you in 30 minutes, or I'll be calling you at 7 p.m. if that's what it has to be. Right. But let them know that you got it. Otherwise, with texting, you don't know whether they are even reading it. It could just sit there. And then now you're being all offended because you feel like you're being ghosted and it was super important to you, but it could be misconstrued once again. And when in doubt, pick up the phone.
But that's exactly going back to your previous point. If you're talking about the little tiny things, that the nuanced differences between you and everybody else in SMS and any kind of digital messaging, it has become normalized that you can be a lazy communicator where you can text somebody and this person's they text me back next day or next hour or whatever. If you really want to make yourself special and different, again, to Julie's point, message them back right away. I received your message. I'll follow up by the end of the day. I'll follow up within an hour. I'm in, whatever. And AI is going to be helping you out a lot with this, as I was inferring earlier. but definitely do urgency with all this, because it's the combination of all these tiny little things that you're going to do that ultimately make you special. If you're wanting to know how to build a great brand, it's not more TikTok videos. It's these tiny little differences that make it so people remember you. Subconsciously, they're going to say, you know what? I really appreciate the fact that Julie texts me back right away or messages me back right away. Even if she doesn't necessarily solve my problem or answer my question, the fact that she's acknowledging, because when you acknowledge that someone communicated with you, I mean, how does it make you feel, right? If you text somebody, even if it's just, nothing important, and they don't respond to the next day, they are telling you, or at least your brain is telling you, I am not important to this person. This person does not prioritize what I feel, does not care that I put effort into sending whatever it was, even if it's just a silly emoji, and they ignored me. That is not a good thing to do for anybody. So make sure you're not the person that's offending people. Otherwise, you will mysteriously find yourself losing clients. All right, Julie, rule number 10, which is...
Well, we've alluded to some of this. Call for backup. Now, this point gets to if it's a sensitive thing or it's too complicated. Sometimes you guys don't communicate back because it's too much to get into text or too much to translate into text. Again, we go back to pick up the phone or set up. One of my coaching clients is really good at this, several of them, but one of them is more known for this. They'll go and set up a coffee meeting. So you can be face to face. You can write down the points. You can present it, right? So when in doubt, pick up the phone or actually be face to face. And I think it's not universally, but especially with older clients, they tend to resonate a bit better with you if they can sort of read you and sit down and feel like you're really on their side. So when in doubt, just go meet at Starbucks and talk it out if you have to. Even if it's with the other agent, you can do that. So
but it makes people feel special, really. It makes people feel acknowledged. It makes them feel like, they're important, which they are to you. But if you're, not taking the time to at least tell them when you're going to get back, not taking the time to pick up the phone, call them,
or just simply, you got the message, let's discuss it at 4:00 this afternoon.
Right. Exactly. It's very simple, but how many people do that? How many people that you're communicating with do that? Hardly anybody. All right. So Julie, point number 10 and point number 11 are kind of the same thing. So I will go ahead.
Yes, but I wanted to make a point. I was listening, I can't remember what it was. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts about communication from just different people that are presenters, and I'm always updating our scripts and getting ideas like that. And one of them said to try to develop a signature habit or a signature trait that you become known for, maybe personally, but certainly business-wise. And your signature trait could be, and if you recall, back to when we had our buyer's agents, Rochelle has this going on, but especially when we had Nate's signature trait was exactly what we've been talking about. Calling back immediately, always answering the phone. Your signature trait can be that you are a great communicator. I guarantee you, and I can say this because I have, many, many examples. When your signature trait is to be somebody who either answers the phone in the first place or always calls back urgently with very good content, very, on point communication, that does build your reputation. I guarantee you will do more business with a greater variety of people because you become known for that.
Well, Jules, what's the number one complaint? Every year, NAR does surveys of recently closed transactions, both buyers and sellers. You guys should Google for this. And the number one complaint every single year, even if they like their agent, they're glad the agent did a great job, blah, 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 blah. Good. The number one complaint they always have is, Julie Harris?
Communication, lack of communication. I'll tell you, fresh off of the coaching call that I had with Houston Heather. Okay, they all get reputations, right? Or nicknames. Houston Heather, nicknames. Okay, so Houston Heather was at a neighborhood thing and met somebody that happened to have their house on the market. You know what they said? Haven't heard from my agent. I'm really frustrated right now. And she looked it up. It had been on the market for over 120 days, right? So she ran into them at a neighborhood party. It was like a garage sale or something like that. And that was like fresh off of my last coaching call, complaining about lack of communication. We used to hear it all the time. We hear it from coaching clients all the time, especially expireds. And why would somebody, other than what they usually say, I'm just trying to save the money, what is the other reason that somebody actually tries to sell their home on their own versus hiring one of our great listeners, our professional agents? It's because they had a bad experience, probably related to lack of communication. They didn't feel like they knew what was going on, or the only time they heard from their agent was trying to beat them down on price. Crappy communication.
Well, I'll tell you guys a funny story. when Julie and I bought our first house when we were 22 and 23. And we were like, we went through the process. We bought it from the listing agent, and we were like, boy, this was a really shitty experience overall. And we saw how much money she made at closing. She, again, was a dual agent, and we had the epiphany. Well, you know what? We definitely could do a better job than she did, because we heard from her when she wrote the contract, and we heard from her at the closing, and she gave us like a fruit bowl and walked away with her, thousands of dollars check. And that was the extent of it. And so had she been a really great communicator and really done a good job, we probably never would have gotten real estate licenses.
Do you remember when we asked her about home inspection? Do you remember she said, well, just have your dad walk through. He'll know. He'll tell you a few things. I can't even believe that.
Okay, well, let's finish the story then. So we move in the house. The house was a flip house that one of her clients was flipping. Julie's in the shower. She leans up against the glass block window that's in the shower. This is an old house built in the 40s. And the glass block window, imagine a normal sized window, but it's been replaced and put in with glass block. The glass block window, and she's, she didn't like push it. She just kind of
like reaching for the shampoo or something.
Exactly. Yeah. It practically fell out of the house.
Yeah. Like one more shove and the window would have just been on the ground.
Because the glass block was new, but it turns out the wood that they put the glass block into was all rotted.
Squishy. Yeah.
Squishy. Yes. So there you go. That was the good motivation for Julie and I to get licenses, because we figured if she could do it, we could do a hell of a lot better job. And then our first full year selling real estate, we sold over 100 homes. So there you go. We were right. And so you guys be right too. And remember these tiny little things. You don't need the best branding, the best marketing, the biggest team, billboards, and all the rest of it to have an amazing real estate career. It's these tiny little nuanced differences that ultimately are going to be the decider of what your future in real estate, or really any service-based industry, is going to be. It is these little things, like Julie said, that make your reputation. These little things that people are going to remember about you. This is how you stand out. No one's going to make a decision about how good of an agent you are based on how many Instagram followers you have. They aren't. They're going to make a decision based on the types of things that you and I, Julie and I, present to you guys every day on the podcast. In the meantime, your homework from today's show, as it is from every show, is to attend Harris Mastermind. Just go to harrismastermind.com. In the meantime, thank you for being such loyal listeners and viewers now on YouTube. Julie, our YouTube channel now has like 136,000 subscribers or something.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty crazy. Well,
yeah,
it's kind of depressing too, to be honest, because it's way easier to get people to watch our videos than it is to get them to listen to the podcast. And so on iTunes, so audio only is now going to probably be in second fiddle to YouTube in terms of where people are finding us, but that's fine. We're going to keep on doing our thing. In the meantime, you guys have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.